Neighbor Claire slipped a folded piece of paper into my hand during my daughter's backyard barbecue, right between "Happy Birthday, Dad" and the first slice of cake. I was standing next to the picnic table, holding a paper plate, half listening to my son-in-law talk about his fantasy football picks. Claire leaned in close, the way she does when she's telling me something about a package left on my porch, and she pressed a note into my palm without a word. Then she walked back toward the drink table like nothing had happened. I looked down at my hand. I didn't open it right away. My daughter Yvonne was calling everyone over for the cake, and my grandson was running circles around the yard, and the whole afternoon had that golden, late summer quality that makes you want to freeze time. I tucked the note into my shirt pocket and told myself I'd read it later. I turned 68 that day. I should tell you a little about who I am, because this story only makes sense if you understand where I started. My name is Robert Calloway. I spent 31 years as a high school history teacher in Dayton, Ohio. I coached the junior varsity baseball team for 16 of those years. I drove the same Ford F-150 for 11 years, until the transmission gave out, and then I bought another one just like it. My wife Patricia passed away 4 years ago from ovarian cancer, and that loss rearranged everything inside me in ways I still don't fully understand. After she died, I sold our house on Elmwood Drive. Too many rooms, too much quiet. I bought a smaller place in a 55-plus community out near Centerville, a 2-bedroom ranch with a decent yard and a covered porch where I drink my coffee every morning. Between my teacher's pension, Patricia's life insurance, and the equity from the Elmwood house, I had a little over $420,000 in a retirement account and a savings account combined. Not wealthy. Comfortable. The kind of comfortable you spend 30 years building. My daughter Yvonne is 41. She lives about 20 minutes from me, over in Beaver Creek, with her husband Joel and their 2 kids. Yvonne is sharp, driven, the kind of person who sends you articles about Medicare supplement plans and reminds you to get your flu shot in September. I have always been proud of her. My neighbor Claire is 73. She moved in 3 doors down about 2 years after I did. We walked together most mornings, around the loop in our neighborhood. Nothing strenuous, just movement and conversation. She was a paralegal for 28 years before she retired. That detail matters. I didn't read the note until after everyone went home. I was in the kitchen rinsing out the coffee urn, and my shirt was still on, and I reached up and touched the pocket and remembered. I unfolded it over the sink. Claire's handwriting is neat and small. She writes like someone who spent decades drafting legal documents. It said, "Robert, I need to talk to you before you sign anything else. I saw the document on your counter last week when I watered your plants. I think you should call your own attorney before you do anything. Please come by tomorrow morning. Don't mention this to Yvonne." I read it 3 times. My first reaction was irritation. The kind of irritation that comes from someone poking at something you didn't realize was sore. I had nothing to hide. My finances were in order. Yvonne had been helping me get my estate planning together, something I'd been putting off since Patricia died. And yes, there had been a document on my kitchen counter, a thick one with tabs. I hadn't read all of it. Yvonne had walked me through the important parts, she'd said. She'd said the attorney had already reviewed it. She'd said it was just a formality. I stood at the sink for a long time. Then I folded the note and put it in the drawer under the kitchen phone, the one where I keep takeout menus and expired coupons and things I don't know what to do with. I did not sleep well that night. I want to be clear about something. I am not a man who panics easily. I coached teenagers through rain-delayed doubleheaders. I sat with my wife through 6 rounds of chemotherapy. I know what real trouble feels like, and I know what ordinary anxiety feels like. And that night, I honestly could not tell which one I was dealing with. What I kept coming back to was a conversation I'd had with Yvonne about 2 months earlier. She'd come over on a Sunday afternoon, which she did fairly often, and she'd made us both tea and sat down at the kitchen table with a look on her face that I recognized from when she was 17, and trying to ask me for something she wasn't sure I'd agree to. She said she'd been talking to a financial advisor, not the one I used, someone new she'd found, and he'd suggested that at my stage of life, it made sense to consolidate my accounts under a single trust structure. She said it would protect my assets, simplify things for her if something ever happened to me, and reduce my estate tax exposure. She had a folder with her. Printed materials, a lot of graphs, some highlighted sections. I said I'd think about it. She came back 2 weeks later. She said the attorney they'd been working with had drafted the paperwork. She said it was straightforward. She said a lot of people my age did this. I signed 3 things that afternoon. I didn't read them carefully. I trusted my daughter. I went to Claire's house at 7:15 the next morning. She was already up, already dressed, coffee made. She had a yellow legal pad on the kitchen table, and she got right to it. She said that when she'd watered my plants, I'd given her a key for when I went up to visit my brother in Columbus. She'd seen a document on my counter and hadn't meant to read it, but her eyes went to it out of habit. What she saw made her stop. She pointed to the legal pad where she'd written down some terminology. Power of attorney. Durable and immediate, not springing. Full financial authority, not limited. Trustee designation with sole discretionary control. Robert, she said, a springing power of attorney only activates if you become incapacitated. What you signed gives someone immediate, full control of your financial accounts right now, today, while you're sitting here drinking coffee. I said I thought it was just an estate planning document. She said it was. It was also a document that gave Yvonne the legal authority to make withdrawals from, transfers out of, and decisions about every financial account you own, without your knowledge or approval, starting the day you signed it. I put my coffee cup down. I said, she wouldn't do that. Claire didn't say anything for a moment. Then she slid a piece of paper across the table. She'd printed it off that morning. It was a list of questions she thought I should ask a licensed elder law attorney, not a financial advisor. A lawyer, one I chose myself, not one associated with Yvonne or anyone she knew. I could be wrong, she said. I hope I'm wrong, but you need to know what you signed. I drove home and I sat on the porch and I called my bank. This is the part I still have trouble talking about. I had 2 accounts at First Financial, a retirement IRA rollover and a regular savings account. I'd had both accounts for years, since before Patricia died. I called the main number and went through the menu and eventually got a person, and I asked them to confirm the current authorization on both accounts. There was a pause. Then the representative said, Mr. Bursite, Calloway, it looks like we received a change of authorized signatory form on your savings account approximately 6 weeks ago. Would you like me to read you what's currently on file? I said yes. Yvonne's name was listed as co-authorized signatory on my savings account, not the IRA. The IRA had different rules, but the savings account, which held just under $180,000. The representative also told me that over the past 4 weeks, there had been 6 transfers out of the savings account, each one to an account I didn't recognize. The total across those 6 transfers was $54,000. I asked the representative to read me the amounts again. She did. I thanked her. I hung up. I sat very still on the porch for a while, watching a cardinal on the feeder that Patricia had put up years ago and that I'd never taken down. $54,000. I'd had no notification, no phone call, no letter. I checked my online account. I wasn't great with it, but I had the login, and I could see the transfers listed there, plain as anything. I don't know why I hadn't been checking. I trusted the account. I trusted my daughter. I didn't think I needed to check. I called Claire back. I told her what the bank had said. My voice was steadier than I expected. She said, "Don't call Yvonne yet. Go see an attorney first. Today if you can." She gave me the name of a woman she used to work for, a retired elder law attorney now doing consulting in Dayton. I called that afternoon, and the woman, Margaret Ostrowski, 25 years of elder law practice, agreed to see me the next morning. I did not sleep that night either. Margaret Ostrowski had an office in her home off Far Hills Avenue. She was in her early 60s. No nonsense, the kind of person who let you finish your sentences, but looked at you like she'd already figured out where you were going. I brought everything I had, the copies Yvonne had given me of what I'd signed, my bank statements, the note from Claire, a legal pad with everything I could remember in chronological order. She read through the documents without speaking. It took about 20 minutes. I sat across from her and watched her face, and it told me nothing until she looked up and said, "Mr. Calloway, the power of attorney you signed is legal under Ohio law. It's also extremely broad. You've granted your daughter the authority a trustee typically has. Combined with her co-signatory status on your savings account, she has had, for the past 6 weeks, the practical ability to access and transfer your funds without your direct involvement." I asked if what she'd done was illegal. Margaret said that depended on whether the transfers were for your benefit. If the money was used for your expenses, your care, your stated wishes, it's arguably within the scope of her authority. If it was used for her benefit or diverted elsewhere, that becomes financial exploitation under Ohio Revised Code. She asked me, had I agreed to any of those transfers? Did I know what they were for? I said no. Not once. She'd never mentioned them. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then she said, then we need to move carefully, and we need to move quickly. First, we revoke the power of attorney. You have the right to do that at any time while you're legally competent, and you clearly are. Second, you contact your bank and remove her signatory access today. Third, and I want to emphasize this, you do not confront her. You do not warn her. You do not change your behavior toward her in any way until we know where that money went. I said, she's my daughter. Margaret said, I know. That's why this matters as much as it does. We spent the next 12 days building a record. Margaret guided me through it step by step. I revoked the power of attorney with a formal, notarized document. I removed Yvonne from my savings account. I obtained copies of every transfer, the destination account numbers, the timestamps, the amounts. Margaret had contacts in the Financial Crimes Unit at the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and she made a call. 2 detectives came to her office, not my home, which was her suggestion. What the detectives found, when they ran the destination account numbers, was that 4 of the 6 transfers had gone to an account in the name of a limited liability company that Yvonne had incorporated 14 months earlier. The company's registered agent was Joel, her husband. Its stated business purpose was residential real estate investment. 2 of the transfers had gone directly to their personal joint checking account. The detectives told me this constituted a probable cause basis for financial exploitation of an elderly person, a felony in Ohio. They said they needed me to do one thing. They needed me not to tip her off while they completed their investigation. They asked if I could hold it together through the weekend. There was a family dinner planned at Yvonne's house on Sunday. They wanted me to go. Act normal. I said, I've been teaching teenagers to care about history for 30 years. I can hold it together for a weekend. The drive to Yvonne's house on Sunday took 19 minutes. I know because I counted. I needed something to focus on. I had my coffee in the cuff holder. I was wearing the blue flannel shirt Yvonne had given me for Father's Day 2 years ago. I don't know why I put that on. Maybe I wanted to remind myself that she had loved me once. Maybe I still believed it. My grandson opened the front door before I knocked. He was wearing a Batman shirt, and he asked me if I wanted to see his new Lego set, and I said yes, absolutely. And I sat on his bedroom floor for 10 minutes looking at a half-built Batmobile, and I thought, this is real. This child is real. This child is real. That is also real. Dinner was pot roast. Yvonne had been making pot roasts since she was 19, same recipe as her mother. She'd put on music, something low and acoustic in the background. Joel poured iced tea without being asked. It all looked exactly like every other Sunday dinner I'd sat through at this table. We ate and we talked. The kids ate early and went to watch something in the den. Joel mentioned he was looking at a property investment opportunity. He said it casually, the way you mention something that's already decided. Yvonne glanced at him and then looked at me. She asked how I was doing, how the accounts were looking. Whether I talked to the financial advisor yet, I said I hadn't gotten around to it. I said I'd been a little tired. She said she'd been meaning to mention that she might need to make a couple of adjustments to the trust structure, just some routine updates the attorney had recommended. Nothing major. She'd send me the paperwork later this week. I said, sure, honey, just let me know. I drove home and sat in the driveway for a while before I went inside. The detectives called Monday morning. They had completed the trace on the LLC account and confirmed that all 4 transfers had been deposited and used for down payments on 2 real estate properties, both purchased in the LLC's name, neither of which I'd known about or authorized. The direct personal account transfers had covered their home equity line payment and their son's private school tuition. They arrested Yvonne on a Tuesday, at her workplace, not her home. They did it that way to minimize the impact on her kids. I'd asked them to try. The charges were financial exploitation of an elderly or disabled adult, theft by deception, and unauthorized use of a financial instrument, all felonies under Ohio law. She called me from the police station. She didn't ask me to come. She asked me if I'd known it was happening. I said yes. She said, how long? I said 12 days. She was quiet. Then she said, "I thought you needed help managing it." I said, "I was managing it fine." She said, "Dad." I said, "I have to go, Yvonne." I hung up. Her attorney argued at the arraignment that the power of attorney established authorization and that Yvonne had acted in what she believed were her father's best interests. The judge set bail, and the case proceeded toward trial. Margaret recommended a civil attorney alongside the criminal case. We filed a separate civil suit for restitution. As part of a plea agreement reached 4 months later, Yvonne pleaded guilty to 1 count of financial exploitation and agreed to full restitution of the $54,000, plus interest and legal fees. She received 3 years of supervised probation, mandatory financial counseling, and a permanent civil judgment against her. She did not serve jail time. That was the agreement her attorney negotiated. I was asked if I would object. I said I wanted the money back, and I wanted it on record. The judge could decide the rest. She paid back the first installment 3 weeks after sentencing. I got a check in the mail from her attorney's office. I held it for a while before I deposited it. I want to say something about what it's actually like to sit across from your child at a dinner table when you know what you know, and they don't know you know it. People ask me sometimes whether I could tell, whether something in her face gave it away, whether I sensed something was wrong. No, that's the honest answer. She acted like my daughter. She acted like she loved me. Maybe she did. I still don't know how to hold both of those things at the same time. That someone can love you and also take from you while you're not looking. I don't think I ever will. What I can tell you is that at 68, I am not confused. I am not incapable. I am not someone who needs to be managed. I spent 3 decades explaining to teenagers why it matters who controls the documents, who controls the information, who gets to decide what the record says. I should have applied that to my own life sooner. I revoked that power of attorney the same week I found out. I removed every secondary authorization from every account I have. I now have a licensed elder law attorney review any financial document before I sign it. Any document, no matter who hands it to me or what they say it's for. I check my accounts every week. I check them the way I used to check the weather before a game. Routinely, without drama, because it matters. Claire still walks with me most mornings. I brought her flowers the week after the arrest. Not because she did something extraordinary, but because she did something simple. She noticed. She said something. She didn't assume I already knew. She didn't assume I couldn't handle it. She treated me like an adult. If there's anyone in your life right now, a parent, a neighbor, a friend, who is older and has recently been asked to sign documents they may not have read carefully, please ask them about it. Offer to sit with them. Offer to call an attorney together, not because old people can't manage their own affairs. Because the people who exploit them count on everyone else assuming they already did. The barbecue was a Thursday this year. Just me and Claire and a couple of other neighbors. Nothing elaborate. She brought a lemon cake. We sat on the porch until it got dark. I turned 69. I have my house. I have my accounts. I have my accounts. I have my name on everything that belongs to me. That's enough. That's more than enough. I've thought a lot about the word trust since all of this happened. Not in any grand philosophical way, just the ordinary, everyday version of it. The kind where you hand someone your house key so they can water your plants while you're gone. The kind where you let your daughter walk you through paperwork because she's sharp and organized and you raised her and you believe that means something. Trust isn't blind. I know that now. But it can become blind, slowly, without you noticing, the way a window gets dirty, so gradually you stop seeing through it clearly. I didn't stop trusting Yvonne all at once. I just kept saying yes, kept signing, kept telling myself she understood these things better than I did. That's not love, that's abdication. And there's a difference. What Claire did wasn't dramatic. She didn't confront anyone. She didn't make accusations over the potato salad. She folded a piece of paper and put it in my hand and trusted me to handle it. That's the part I keep coming back to. She trusted me, not to fall apart, not to need rescuing, just to know what to do with the truth once I had it. That's what real respect looks like between two people. Margaret Ostrowski told me something in our first meeting that I've repeated to myself probably 100 times since. She said, "You are legally competent and you have every right to know exactly what you've signed." She said it matter-of-factly, the way you'd say the sky is blue. but it landed differently than she probably intended, because somewhere along the way, I'd started acting like I needed permission to ask questions about my own money. I don't know exactly when that happened. I suspect it happened gradually, through 100 small moments where someone explained something to me and I nodded along instead of asking them to slow down. The choices I made. Signing without reading, not checking my accounts, assuming the people I loved had my interests at heart without verifying it. Those choices had consequences. Not because I was naive, but because I was complacent. There's a version of me that catches this 6 months earlier, or a year earlier, just by paying attention. I think about that version sometimes. Not with regret, exactly. More like a lesson I needed to cost something before I'd really learn it. And Yvonne's choices had consequences too. She is a smart woman. She knew what she was doing. I don't think she started out intending to hollow out her father's savings account. I think it started smaller than that. A line she crossed once and then again, each time telling herself a story about why it was acceptable. That's how most damage happens between people who love each other. Not in one terrible moment, but in a slow series of small decisions that compound. I am 69 years old. I own my home outright. Every account I have is in my name alone, with no secondary authorization that I didn't choose myself with a clear head and a lawyer present. I read everything before I sign it. Everything. That's not paranoia. That's just what it looks like to take your own life seriously.